Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. If you listen to none of my video thoughts, I urge you to consider listening to this one through, because I'm talking about a most important concept today. It's the concept of hope, and not just a pie in the sky hope, but a biblically based hope. A hope that is what we really need right now. Now, the key to understanding some of this, though, is in the context of what I'm doing this week, each day in a thought for the day. I've been using a chain verse out of Romans 5, where Paul says we're able to rejoice in suffering. Whew, as weird as that may sound, that was Monday's thought for the day. We rejoice in suffering, knowing that as it works, what filters down from suffering is endurance, an ability to sustain, to be steadfast, to keep going. And that was Tuesday. And then that endurance will produce in us character. And character is day 3. That was yesterday's. Character produces hope. Now, that may seem like a weird thing to you, because our English word hope is often used for things that are real pie in the sky. It's stuff that we don't really anticipate ever coming true. Like, oh, I hope I win the lottery. Or, oh, I hope, something like that. That's not the case with the Greek word for hope. The Greek word for hope is a word you need in your vocabulary. That's the word Paul's using there. And that Greek word for hope, the root of it are 5 basic letters in the Greek. In English, the letters would be E-L-P-I-S. It's epsilon, lambda, pi, iota, and sigma. El Peace is the way you say it. El Peace. And El Peace is a kind of hope, and the translators translated hope, but don't think of it as some pie in the sky. Gee, maybe perchance this in some long shot win of the lottery might happen. That's not the concept behind Christian hope. And that's not what Paul is saying is produced within us as we work through suffering, endurance, and character building. Rather, one of the most effective ways to understand that Greek word is to read about a story that happened to Paul. The story is recorded in Acts chapter 16. Now, Paul's working the Mediterranean world. He's over in the eastern part of the Mediterranean, and he's been up in Macedonia in Philippi. And he's walking through the streets, and there is a woman who's demon possessed. Now, this woman who's demon possessed has really been pestering Paul, and really him and his compatriots getting on their nerves and mocking them and walking around and just really making a mess of their time there. Now, meanwhile, this demonically filled woman had an ability to, in essence, tell fortunes. She had this ability to predict the future. And so she was a slave girl, and she had owners who had made much gain from her. In other words, she was their meal ticket. This is a slave girl whose owners profited from her ability to tell the future. And so they rent her out in a sense and charge for her time. And they had made, the narrative says, much gain. In other words, they'd been pulling in some pretty good coin off of her. So there's this woman. She's demon possessed. She's making a boatload of money for the people who own her. And out of the blue, on a day where she was really getting on Paul's nerves, Paul just turns around and says to her, "Demon, come out in the name of Jesus," and casts the demon out. Now, this is a woman that day after day, month after month, year after year, had made her owners a lot of money telling fortunes. And now all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. She's not able to do it at all anymore. And in verse 16 of chapter 16 of the Acts narrative, it says, "And when the owners saw that their hope of making money was gone, they set on Paul. They went after Paul. Now, that word hope, it's not that it was some pie in the sky hope. It was much more what we would say was a confident expectation of what the future would hold. I mean, they had no reason to think they wouldn't continue making money hand over fist. They'd been doing it for a long time. So hope in the Christian sense is not a pie in the sky, gee, maybe by some weird stretch. No. Hope in the Christian sense of this Greek word is a confident expectation. So now here's the key to this passage. We can rejoice in suffering as we understand that it will produce in us an endurance, an ability to keep going, that builds up our character as it generates in us a confident expectation for what God's going to do in the future. We worship a God who's not captive to the misery of this world, but who seeks to elevate his followers with a confident expectation, aka hope, elpis in the Greek, a confident expectation that God is at work for bigger and better things that are coming down the pike. And with that hope, we'll conclude tomorrow this video thought for the day. But for now, hang on. We can confidently expect something good is coming.